Hi guys, welcome back to Stella Podcast. Today we'll be discussing a topic that I think anyone who's interested in buying or selling a flat would want to know. That is, how do we know that the price is right?
In today's context, right, valuation of a HDB flat is only done after seller and buyer agree on the pricing. Sellers will always have this concern like, will my flat have COV? Can you help me sell my flat and so that I can get COV? And then it's quite tricky for us to navigate sometimes because we know that if the flat has too high a COV, the buyer may not even proceed to exercise the option to purchase. But nonetheless, to assist our sellers in deciding on the pricing, there's a lot of information online. And I think one way that we agents usually use is SRX as well as a real agent.
Correct. Yeah. So actually, usually people will just refer to the HDB website. I mean, most of the sellers and buyers, right, they know that the HDB website is readily available, right? And people also seem to know about this thing called the X value. Where does the term derive? Where does the term derive from? It's actually from the SRX website, right? There's this X value thing. You just key in your address and then you see the price. But back to Asha's question, right? How do we know whether we price the property right? Right? I guess that's where agents like us can help because of the volume of transactions that we have as a team, as individuals, right? And then there's the concern of the COV, like you mentioned.
Yep.
Right. So what is this COV thing? Maybe you want to define it first, Charles.
Sure. So COV stands for cash over valuation. So it happens when the price is higher than the value. As simple as that. And then the difference is the cash, that amount, it needs to only be paid in cash. That's why it's called cash over valuation. And for some buyers, they might be quite budget conscious. So that's why if there is a COV, they might not exercise the option.
Yeah. Okay. So the process is, right, you want to buy this house. Okay. The owner wants it at 600 and you think 600 is within your budget. Then you put down the deposit of $1,000 and then you apply for valuation, right? Then the valuation came out to be 580. So you agreed to buy 600.
Yep.
Right, but the valuation came out to be 580. So that difference is called cash over the valuation.
So what if I don't have that extra 20,000? Can I get a loan to cover that portion?
You cannot, right?
That's the cash.
The tricky part is that we don't actually know what the valuation will be before we make an offer, correct? So how do we know if what we're offering is going to have a COV or if it's going to be below the valuation? How do we know for sure? Is there a way to tell?
One way for agents like us to find out about the COV is to use SRX as well as a real agent. And these applications that are only available to agents who subscribe. So the general public, generally, they do not know what the COV or what the valuation of all these recently transacted flats are. And of course, if the buyers really want to, secure the flat that they want, they must be mentally prepared to pay some COV. And that is because sometimes, if the flat is well renovated and it has a, longer remaining lease, and then, when you go for the viewing, you see other groups of buyers, and that's where, mentally prepare that there will be COV. The question is really how much COV they are able to stomach. And right now, I think half the time in the market, in today's market, maybe half the time or less than half the time, there will be some COV.
And I guess you could also say that this is perhaps where the value of having a good agent who is able to help you to find units, maybe that is well priced in the current market, or maybe something which they think might be able to secure at valuation or with no COV. Charles mentioned that sometimes you have to be mentally prepared to pay COV, especially if the unit is sought after, it is close to amenities. When you go down for viewing, sometimes you see many groups of people viewing it. You have to be mentally prepared. I guess then you could also say the converse is true. If you want to avoid, paying high COV in the current market, then you would need to try to find units maybe that is slightly further away from the amenities, from the MRT, slightly further away. Or
that's
maybe,
a good point.
Correct.
Yeah.
Or maybe where you see the listing price is very close to the X value. So these are the kind of units that you should be trying to secure if you are not keen to pay COV lah.
Correct.
On the
Yeah.
flip side,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, because COV is actually driven by the market response, right?
correct.
Like, okay, let's say the three of us, we are vying for the same unit,
Yep.
right? And I really like that unit. And this happens a lot of times, right? Our buyers came along, we are marketing this unit, and then our client only won 600,000. But because these three buyers all want the unit, right? Suddenly, right, buyer A come out with 605, buyer B 608, buyer C 610. So sometimes agents like us, we also don't like to have too many offers coming at one go. I mean, we're happy for our clients, our sellers, but it puts us in this situation where, oh gosh, like we don't want to go into a war, a bidding war, right? Yeah.
So talking about COV, it reminds me of a transaction that I did for a client once, where they found a unit that they really liked. However, the seller was asking for a price that was significantly higher than what we found the X value to be, and we advised the client that if they go for the unit, then there's a high chance that they'll have to pay COV. The clients really liked the unit, so they decided to just try. And true enough, when the HDB valuation came back, there was 45k COV, which was above what they could afford. So what we did in this situation was we went back to the seller and we explained that based on the high COV, it would be very difficult for us to proceed. We managed to renegotiate a lower price, which was higher than X value, X value. We resubmitted it and it had a happy ending. The HDB managed to match the new selling price, and my buyers didn't have to pay any COV.
Right.
So,
yeah. So it's the second attempt that the price matched because it's a lowered price, but it wasn't the actual value. So that means the valuation came out to be.
They increased the valuation
Increased,
when we resubmitted. The
Yeah.
valuation was increased to match.
Okay, so I had a situation, right, which was opposite of yours, okay?
Okay.
I was representing seller. Seller was okay to sell at 20k COV, right? Then buyer, first time buyer, very poor thing. Buyer already agreed, okay, this price 20k COV. But then, right, when we renegotiated to target on that 20k COV, it came out to be still higher, 30k COV. Yeah, so it was very unfortunate lah.
So
yeah.
the COV went up.
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah, went up.
Right.
Higher than the
Higher than
initial.
the initial COV.
Yes.
Yeah, I guess this just shows that valuation is a dynamic thing. It's constantly changing based on market transactions and
Totally.
other factors at play. Yeah.
I see. I think, some buyers may not even be aware that it is possible to so-called renegotiate on the price after you get the first value.
Right.
Yeah, because I think most of the time, if you already got the first value, right, if you really like the flat, you will just go for it. Of course, you must have the funds for the COV, and I'm assuming the COV is not that high. But
Yeah.
of course, if the COV is really crazy high and the buyers do not have enough budget, then yes, that could be one option that they can explore. But of course, it's subject to the seller's agreement, and of course, if the sellers have other offers coming in, the sellers may not accede to the buyer's request for a second valuation,
Yeah.
because there needs to be a so-called time period, right? 21 days for the option to expire before the sellers can reissue the second OTP and then request for the second valuation.
Okay, qualifier, we are not allowed to issue an OTP, right? Having in mind that there would be a second OTP to be issued. We cannot do that.
Yep.
Right? That is not our practice and that is not allowed. We're not supposed to do that. But if it's genuine that, after the first offer, valuation has it that it's too high for the buyer to afford to proceed, the sellers will actually remarket the unit, right? And when they remarket the unit, they're supposed to open it up to other buyers. And of course, us being the first buyer who were disappointed with the high COV, we are in again for the renegotiation. Yeah, so that's like a fair trade kind of thing. It's not like hey, let's do this first, and then after that we should never facilitate that, and we never facilitate that.
Right.
Yeah.
So what you're saying is cannot prepare two OTPs lah.
Yes, cannot.
Okay.
Yeah, because after all, when the buyer submit for the request of value, right, to the HDB, they do need to produce the first page of the OTP.
Yes.
So definitely you can't duplicate the same OTP to request for a value the second time.
Yes.
Yeah. It's just about the time period that the sellers need to wait. Because if they really want to sell to the buyer, they have to wait Otherwise, they can sell to somebody else, ma.
Sometimes, right, we pay attention so much on this COV, right? As sellers, right, we're always concerned whether we are pricing too high. But there's some sellers who really want to try high, right? I had a seller, this auntie, she was like, Rosie, I want 800K and no less. And then the whole block, right? I saw the last transaction, the highest was 650 only. So I was like, alamak, auntie, 800 too high. So I tried it anyways, right? And then came along an uncle who wanted to buy, and he was like, girl, how much? 800 you want 800 Okay, 800 can. But wait girl, what's the valuation? So I had to educate the uncle. He comes from landed property, right? So he doesn't, I think he's not aware that, now you don't apply valuation first. You have to put the deposit, then apply valuation, right? So I told him the new process, and then he said, oh, okay, but never mind lah. Got COV or not? I have 800K. I want this house. I pay you now. You come to my house now and I get my SC and we get it done. So I drove to his house, right? His house was like a mansion. I think it's worth like 7 million or something now. Back then it was like 3 million plus. So what is
Still
800? Yeah, what is 800,000 to the uncle, right? So even though the valuation came out to be 650, for instance, but the uncle has that excess 150. In fact, he is paying full cash. Yeah. So sometimes as sellers, right, I can understand why our sellers want us to price as high as possible. Sometimes just to test market. Yeah.
Right.
Usually what we do, our team, we give it a go like for a week or two and see how the response is, right?
I see.
Also, at the end of the day, it really depends on the circumstances of the sellers and their urgency to sell the unit. I mean, if they're in no hurry or there's no urgency to sell and they just want to test the market, then it's really up to them how they want to price it. So back to the question of how would we then, if I was a seller or a buyer, as a seller, how would I then price my unit in the market today? What would you say would be a good strategy?
I think we can look at the HDB map services, whereby HDB will publish the recently transacted prices. And for us agents, we definitely can assist our clients in helping them look at prices from real agent as well as SRX. And of course, within our own team, if we know of our colleagues selling a similar size unit in the same neighborhood, we will have more insider information.
Right, and maybe I can pose this question to the both of you. Then would you say that if I wanted to price my unit, that I should follow closely to recent transacted prices? Is that what you're saying? Or can I price it higher than recent transacted prices? What's your opinion?
In addition to what Charles mentioned, right, it's always going higher than, what's the highest, because we all want the best of our clients, right? And we are known to be a team that break record highest all the time, right? Most of the time, right? Yeah, so we have this sensing on how the market is going. We have this powerful tool called the big data in our company that it projects, the growth in general, like the growth of that block, the growth of within the neighborhood and within that precinct. Yeah, so we will always put a higher price than the highest, the last highest. And for me personally, I think an achievable amount for HDB flats would be like maybe within the range of 50,000.
Right.
Yeah, we can give it a go. Yeah, but if clients go like, hey Rosie, try 100,000 more, right? It's a bit too much, but I think, I don't know, maybe you want to try.
Unless the unit is really well renovated on a very high floor, and
it has got lights made of gold.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. And one more thing. If, right, like now what we observe is that if the valuer goes down to the HDB flat, right, chances are that there is COV.
So that was some really great insight, guys. I mean, if we wanted to, I think we could go on and on. But for our listeners out there, if you're interested to find out more, then you could always give us a call, have coffee, and we can talk to you more about it.
Yeah, so till the next time.
Bye.
See you.